Let's go to the Diamond Factory Hotline, where we welcome in the NBA managing editor for The Athletic, Louisiana native, proud LSU Tiger, Tyler Batiste, joining us here on the Get Right. Tyler, do you agree that you have to get more bang for your buck if you're going to build a $1.5 billion stadium? It has to have more than 30,000 seats in it, right?
Yeah, probably, but I need to see what the setup is. Like, if it's in a nice spot, there's probably going to be some nightclubs attached to it. You're probably going to charge $50 for drinks, so you're probably making up for the fact that you might have 25,000 less people than a normal stadium. So we'll see what happens. Like you said, it's probably going to be some legal stuff to go on before it even happens.
Right, and you got to remember, like, the A's not used to people showing up, so they probably don't even
set the expectations properly. It sounds like maybe that's what
they don't even know how many people typically come to a baseball game.
It sounds like they're kind of overcorrecting because that stadium in Oakland is huge and it's never filled. So I guess they're kind of overcorrecting to the other side of things, and maybe they'll expand and add another 10,000 or something if when we get to 2035 or something like that.
That's right. Mr. Batiste, so I got a little bit of insider information that you had to step away from a table in order to contact us, and there was an interesting conversation happening. Can you fill us in as much as you can on broadcast radio? What was the conversation happening before you came to join us on this fine program?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that. I'm going to let you report back to your sources and let them fill you in on it. And then I don't want to get you guys in trouble, right? So I don't want to say too much about what's going on. It was about, let's say, childhood memories that guys might have had. Put it that way.
Okay.
I'll keep it vague, and you guys can report back on that. That might be for the 10 p.m. hour. I'm not going to get into that right now.
Oh, so we're going to call you back in an hour and a half is what you're saying.
Don't do that, Tim.
Hit me up. I'll be around, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sound like y'all having too much fun. You'll be in an altered state probably, so.
No, man, I'm good, man. I'm good. I wanted to talk to you guys. I'm a little sore from a recent move, so I'm not doing too much partying, but that conversation was a little much for me. I'm glad to step out.
Speaking of altered state, what the hell is happening in San Francisco with the Warriors right now? They're down 3-1 going into Game 5 tonight. Jordan Poole can't find his game because he lost it to the Monstars at this point. And Stephen Curry, despite the massive triple-double that he had, got locked down by AD in the final seconds. What's going on in San Francisco?
I mean, honestly, man, I think what's going on in San Francisco is just kind of what's happening in Los Angeles. I mean, a lot of people were surprised. I think people predicted the Lakers to beat the Grizzlies, but maybe we're surprised that, they got it done as quickly and as dominantly as they did. Man, the Lakers were the best team in the NBA after the trade deadline. After they made those trades and revamped their roster with Jared Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell, this isn't anything new for them. So I don't think it's as much about what's wrong with the Warriors as much as it's about, okay, maybe this Lakers team that we saw in March and April when Anthony Davis is healthy, when LeBron James is healthy, is what we're seeing, which is, potentially the best team in the West. We'll see what happens in the next round should they advance. But it's going to be a really interesting offseason with the Warriors. Obviously, Jordan Poole has an extension that's going to kick in this offseason. They've already extended Andrew Wiggins. Draymond Green has a player option that seems like something that he might opt out of because of, obviously the preseason situation that's happened there. But maybe it is something that he opts into, and then that's a whole nother set of issues because of the new CBA that's going to kick in. That's going to limit the Warriors and how they can build out the rest of their roster. So it's been a pretty significant dynasty over the past decade, but it could be coming to an end as soon as tonight.
Tyler, you are the managing editor at The Athletic for NBA, and John Hollinger at The Athletic wrote a very interesting piece about how shooting guard trades this year have made an impact with these teams that remain in the playoffs. Just how impactful have the shooting guards or guards in general that have been traded around been for these teams this year?
I mean, extremely. I think the jumping off point of that column that he wrote that published today was KCP and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope over in Denver. As John wrote, a lot of people just kind of thought that move to get rid of Will Barton and bring in KCP was sort of a salary dump. They extended him not long after they actually brought him in. KCP has been a beast defensively, especially on the court, which is kind of where Denver has been, lacking a little bit over the past couple of years. Obviously, they can score with Jokic and Murray and Michael Porter Jr., but they needed sort of that lockdown defensive wing who could, is quick enough to guard guards and is tall enough and has a little bit of size to guard some forwards. I think with KCP in particular, the biggest attribute that he brings to Denver is that championship experience. He's the only guy on the roster, if I'm not mistaken, who has a ring. Now, granted, he did win a ring in the bubble with the Lakers in 2020, so it's not a little bit different than any other championship that anybody else has won in league history, but he's done it. He's been to the mountaintop. He knows what it takes to play with LeBron and Anthony Davis and to get to where you need to be in the NBA. So that experience just in the locker room is something that you really can't quantify. You can't put a number on that in terms of points and rebounds and whatnot. And you look around the rest of the league, as John wrote, the Anthony Melton in Philadelphia, D'Angelo Russell, who's not really a point guard. I'm sorry, he's not really a shooting guard, but he's a scoring point guard, and he plays off the ball so much when LeBron and Austin Reeves and those guys are handling it. He can be streaky. He's been streaking in the right way more than the wrong way recently, and it's really helped the Lakers, as we talked about earlier, just kind of be among the best teams in basketball over the past few months, I should say.
The NBA managing editor for The Athletic, Tyler Batiste, joining us here on the Get Right of Reggie KG here on 105 through the Fan, talking NBA playoffs. Speaking of guards, Chris Paul going to remain out for the Phoenix Suns as they get ready to take on the Denver Nuggets to avoid elimination. And now DeAndre Ayton has popped up on the injury report. He's questionable with a rib contusion going into game number 6. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant have been obviously incredible for Phoenix, but really outside of those two, who needs to step up to try and help this team avoid elimination against Denver in game 6?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, Cam Payne has been starting in place of Chris Paul. I think we saw flashes of TJ Warren be effective recently. Coming off the bench. TJ Warren obviously had a foot injury that kept him out for a couple of seasons, but those last 2 years that he was in Indiana, I mean, he was, close to a 20-point per game scorer. He's got the capability to go off when needed. Is he going to be able to do it at a consistent basis over the next, couple games to kind of save Phoenix's season? That's going to be tough to tell. If he had that capability, or if another team thought he had that capability, he would probably be starting somewhere right now. So you're kind of skeptical about it, but he's the guy who I look at their team can really, go off for 20, 25 if they needed to kind of alleviate some of the pressure from Booker and KD. I think what's going to be interesting to watch is without DeAndre Ayton, the Phoenix Suns don't really have a rim protector that they are playing. Jock Landale has been playing a little bit, but he's not really, an intimidating shot blocker. He's kind of, taken over for Bismack Biyombo in the middle. Is Denver going to kind of try to take advantage of that by maybe going to the rim more with Michael Porter and Jamal Murray and just kind of attacking from inside out to try to put this series away? I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch, but it's going to be tough for Phoenix to win 2 games for sure.
Now, speaking of, teams that are doing pretty well, the Sixers, I think, are in a very interesting place as they are up 3-2 on the number 2 Celtics in the East. Right. And it feels like this team has gotten, obviously, great player from Joel Embiid, the MVP. In the playoffs, James Harden has been, a revelation in most of these games. And it feels like in that last game against the Celtics, Doc Rivers, a head coach that I think has, is kind of polarizing in some ways, seemed to lay out a really, really good game plan that had the Celtics on their heels. How much belief do you have in the 76ers to be a team that can actually do this all for real, for real?
I have some belief because I think they've shown like last night's game was the biggest one of their season. They didn't lay an egg, right? Everybody showed up. The MVP showed up. Embiid showed up. Guys off the bench played well. That was a game that I think this iteration of the Sixers team in recent years, whether it be with Ben Simmons or without Ben Simmons, those are the types of games that you just kind of expect them to almost get blown out in, or at least to kind of squeak by in. And it really wasn't in doubt for a lot of that game last night. I think people kind of forget that Doc Rivers, for all of the flack that he gets, he's won a championship. He's been to NBA Finals. He's been around this league for a long time. He's played in this league a long time. He's seen a lot of things. And the coach on the other sideline, Joe Mazzulla, this is his first year. That experience, there's something to be said for that, especially when you get at this point in the playoffs. But the other thing to remember is that last year, if you recall, Boston also lost Game 5 to Milwaukee and then ended up winning Game 6 on the road, won Game 7 at home, and then, of course, obviously went on to the NBA Finals. So they still got Tatum, they still got Brown, they still got the core of that team. So this is not going to be a cakewalk for Philadelphia tomorrow night.
Tyler, before we let you get out of here on this Wednesday night, hottest take left in these NBA playoffs that you want to get off before we let you go?
Oh, man. Oh, you put me on the spot here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being on the NBA first team over Donovan Mitchell, and I'm going to go ahead and say that that's the right call. He should be on the NBA first team, all NBA first team this year. The playoffs are, I don't think it matters that players didn't make the playoffs when you're voting for those teams. So I'm good with the SGA Luka backcourt that it seems like a lot of people are not okay with, but we'll see.
All right, let me actually double that up, because with that, obviously those guys, you have those guys in, but we understand that with all NBA, we're soon moving to a place where we will not have to be, focusing on positions, and we can go positionless on all NBA. So obviously Nikola Jokic not making the first team feels insane. Right. Put him on the first team. Who are you taking out to make room for Nikola Jokic?
Probably SGA. No disrespect to SGA, but the game is the game, and this is 2023. It's not 2024. So the positions are what they are now, and I think you probably take him off, and you could probably look back the past couple of years when I think Jokic made first team and Embiid didn't, and probably take off some other players as well. So I think it's a good change to just kind of have the best five players on those first, second, and third teams. The game is positionless now. You watch how teams play. A lot of it is positionless. Those All-NBA teams should reflect that for sure.
All right, because you're a pro wrestling fan.
All right.
And we are kindred spirits in that way.
What was that all right, man? Get out of here.
Don't mind Reg. Don't mind Reg.
Don't worry, my mic is muted.
Yeah,
for sure.
Don't mind Reg. Seth Rollins has to win the World Heavyweight Championship at Night of Champions. Yes or no?
No. I think it's so obvious that he's going, quote unquote, going to win, that I think the swerve would be interesting to kind of have him somehow not win and then have that culminated at SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or something. I don't know who the other person is. I don't know who the other person is to have to beat him. Who kind of the big bad guy is going to be.
I feel like AJ Styles getting the push right now. AJ Styles, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, maybe AJ Styles. I think if that happens, you may have to turn him heel a little bit to kind of get that mean streak out of it. But I think what it's setting up for, again, it's so obvious that Seth is going to win, almost like WrestleMania, where it seems so obvious that Cody was going to win. I think the play is to have something happen, and then we get through June and July with Seth chasing whoever it is for that belt, and then we get that big moment at SummerSlam.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it there first. Seth Rollins not going to win the World Heavyweight Championship.
No offense, Seth. I'm sorry, Seth.
Seth is a known Get Right listener. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. You can find Tyler on Twitter at Ty Batiste. He is the NBA managing editor for The Athletic, covering all things for the NBA. Tyler, as always, appreciate the time, sir.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
I'll catch up with you soon. We'll be at one of those tables.
Yes, sir.